The morning Helen Cartwright called the cops on me for illegally fishing her lake was the day everything flipped upside down. Picture it. Dawn on Cedar Valley, the water still as glass. Me in my old boots with 20 years of habit and memories, and suddenly a voice cuts through the quiet like a chainsaw. You're using association property without authorization. I'll never forget how smug she looked, arms crossed, pastel sweater just so, watching as I packed up my gear under the eye of a deputy who clearly wished he was anywhere else. Sorry, Daniel, formal complaint you. Gotta go. All that peace, gone with the sharp click of my tackle case, echoing across the lake. But what Helen didn't realize, what she couldn't have known, was that she'd just started a war she couldn't win, because I wasn't just another resident. I owned every square inch of that water. Title, mineral rights, the whole shebang. And while she strutted around collecting $200 a month from the neighbors for lake access, believing she ran the place, she was sitting on my property, like a queen on a throne built of sand. You know what I mean? Sometimes, people don't realize they're biting off more than they can chew. I'm Daniel Riverside, for the record. After my wife Anna passed in 2000, I needed a place to breathe. This spot, just a couple of acres, handed down from my granddad, became my escape, my little patch of quiet where grief softened into routine. I built the cabin myself, hauling boards, hammering through the ache. Every morning for 2 decades. I'd hit that same launch spot, watch the mist rise, listen to the loons and the water lapping at the rocks. It wasn't just fishing, it was survival. Back then, the lake was ringed with old-timers, retired folks, teachers, a couple of vets. Good people. We'd share gear, pass around our best catches, help each other fix what broke. Nobody cared if your truck was rusty or your grass was knee-high. It was simple, and it worked. Then came the wave. New money, new houses, and Helen in her shiny white SUV, fresh off a divorce and full of big ideas. She landed like a storm in. Heels, hair lacquered into submission, never underdressed, always ready with a corporate buzzword. 2 weeks in, she's got an emergency homeowners gathering, complete with slide decks and charts. About optimizing communal resources. I haven't heard that much jargon since my last construction job. And suddenly, the talk is all about rules, fishing limits, dock permits, and a $200 lake access fee because, she says, the water's shared. 8 newcomers signed on, scared into it by her doom and gloom about property values. The rest of us got certified mail, laying down the law. I called her, as polite as I could muster. Appreciate the initiative, but I'm not joining your association. Her voice went so cold it could freeze the lake. It's not voluntary, Mr. Riverside. This is about everyone's financial stake. I told her I wasn't interested in an investment. I just lived here. The silence was thick. Then, boom, 2 weeks later, laminated members-only signs started popping up like weeds. I stuck to my routine. What else could I do? But now Helen was posted up at her window, binoculars out, jotting notes like I was some criminal mastermind, not a guy trying to catch his breakfast. Then she went nuclear, filed a trespassing complaint with the county, complete with photos of me illegally accessing my own lake. Within 48 hours, there's another meeting, this one about managing non-compliant residents. She'd roped in Gerald Preston, a retired banker with all the personality of a concrete block, as her financial officer. Suddenly, it wasn't just me. Sandra Mitchell got dinged for her garden gnomes. Fine, $50 a day. The Rodriguez family's old pontoon boat. Unapproved watercraft. Raymond's vegetable patch. Aesthetic violation. You could hear Helen's designer heels clacking up the drive, handing out violations like Halloween candy. Sandra came to me that night, hands shaking with the letter. Daniel, I don't even understand half this, but they want $50 a day until I pull up the ornaments from my late husband. That's when I knew it was time to do more than fish. I hit the county records office. If you've never been, it's basically a tomb for dead paperwork and lost dreams. Patricia, the clerk, had seen it all. She took one look at Helen's association paperwork and just shook her head. Missing descriptions, no real boundaries, 0 legal teeth. She told me about riparian rights. If you own land next to water, odds are you own the rights to use it. Most folks have no clue what's really in their deeds. That's when I realized Helen was all hat and no cattle. But she wasn't done. She hired a security guard, some kid who lasted all of 3 days after I asked him. Real friendly. Who exactly authorizes you to keep me from fishing? He muttered something about the association, took a couple photos, and quit by Friday. Next, Helen hired a real lawyer, cease and desist, $500 in fees, threats of small claims court. Sandra watched me read it, expecting me to lose it. I just laughed. She picked the wrong guy. You see, my digging had paid off. My granddad's deed went back further than any of them realized. Not only did I have surface rights, I had mineral rights. The whole lake bed, front to back. Helen's shared water was my private property. And the best part? The original mining survey from the 60s, tucked away in the archives, listed every boundary, every spring, every inch, right there in black and white. I let Helen keep pushing. She put up a fancy white vinyl fence across the old public access, posted new members-only signs, called the county about my boat, even tried to get my dock condemned. Each move just drew more attention, neighbors whispering, her coalition getting restless. Gerald even approached me, offering a deal, cut the fees in half if I'd agree to stay off the water on weekends. I smiled and let him stew, never letting on what I'd found. Helen started organizing, brought in 3 other association presidents, whipped up a petition for the county, printed glossy newsletters about unregulated fishing threatening community safety. She booked the community center for her victory party, hired a photographer, and got the local paper to come cover her big win. Meanwhile, I was quietly assembling my own army. Patricia found even more paperwork. Helen had never actually registered the association with the state. Sandra rallied other old-timers, getting their violation letters together. Even Deputy Williams, the same guy who'd run me off the lake, started quietly documenting Helen's antics. The night before the county meeting, my kitchen turned into a war room. Sandra, Patricia, my lawyer Foster, all of us piecing together the timeline, prepping evidence, organizing deed copies, surveys, tax records, and photographs. The plan was simple: let Helen talk herself into a corner, then drop the hammer. And that's exactly how it played out. Helen strutted into the assembly in her cream blazer, her entourage in matching navy, binders, slides, the whole 9 yards. She gave her speech, laid out her case, demanded the county officially recognize the association, grant them enforcement powers, back her fines, her signs, her cameras. Then came my turn. I walked up in my old flannel, manila folder in hand, boots echoing on the floor, and said, "Commissioners, I'd like to clarify property ownership." The hush was absolute. Helen's face just drained. I laid out the deeds, the mineral rights, the surveys, the tax records, every bit of it. Commissioner Thompson looked over the paperwork, turned to Helen, and asked, "Miss Cartwright, did you know Mr. Riverside owns the entire lake bed and associated rights?" Helen stammered, trying to spin some story about shared use and community tradition, but it was over. You could feel it in the room. The spell was broken. Even her own supporters were looking away, realizing they'd been taken for a ride. That's how it ended. Not with fireworks, but with the quiet satisfaction of truth coming out. The county shut down her association, canceled the fines, and made it crystal clear that Cedar Valley Lake belonged to the Riverside family. The crowd filed out, some shaking my hand, others just stunned into silence. But you know what? I still fish that lake every morning. Sandra's gnomes are right where they belong. Raymond's out walking again. And Helen? She moved out 2 months later. Justice, I guess, comes with a side of irony. Now, I've got to ask, what would you have done if someone tried to steal your piece of peace? Ever had an HOA nightmare? Comment below with your story, your town, your own little war for what's right. Because in the end, justice isn't about winning or losing. It's about standing your ground, even when nobody else will.